Hi there, guys. My name is Jade. I'm from Ontrack Norfolk and I'm a lead coach. Today, we're going to be speaking with personal development coach Alex Reason from Empower Martial Arts. Hi there, Alex. How are you doing?
Hello, Jade. I'm very good, thank you. You?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. So I've invited you here to have a little chat with me about what it is you do and how it is you've sort of combined your martial arts with personal development coaching. So can you tell me a little bit about what you do?
Yeah. The ground roots of me is I'm a martial arts instructor. It's I've done martial arts since I was 6 years old. Started with karate, moved into kickboxing, and then as I got a bit older, started learning more depth of martial arts, but more about the teaching side of things. So when I was a little bit younger, it was all about winning competitions, to try and get my own wins, obviously, to make it personal to me, to get my own, build my own confidence up, I suppose. And then when I got a bit older, realised that I could give a lot back. I'll be honest, I first went into teaching martial arts because I wanted to create more world champions. Um, and then I realised as I started teaching more people that the real win is to win in life, not just to sit at the competition and come back with a trophy. A title, it doesn't define us. So as I started to teach more and more kids, I was very lucky. I was in a school called Academy Martial Arts, where we built up from like 50 students when I first started there to over 250 within a couple of years. And then we eventually got nearly 400 students. Majority of people came to us for families, coming to us for help with their children. We get doctors who would not prescribe, but advise to take their children to us. And it's not just about health, it's more about the mental well-being, for focus, discipline, how to exercise their energy levels. So it just gave me more focus that way. It took my focus away from my own training as so much and put it more onto how I could help others. I suppose one of those things that you're trying to teach a skill, but if people keep coming to you for questions about how to help their families, that's what you end up doing.
So is that why you started Empower Martial Arts then?
Yes, what happened? Yeah, so the school, I left the business. Academy Martial Arts as a school closed, so I started my own school by myself. And what it was is I was speaking to all the students when we were closing the school about what they got from the training with us and what they wanted going forwards. And what I figured and realised was what we actually did was empower people. And then what they did is they empowered me to continue to start my own school. So that's why I come up with the name Power. So the name Power is about guiding people, not telling people what to do. It's just the problem sometimes with teaching is it's all about telling. Whereas coaching, I find, is more about guiding and trying to give people the tools so they can create it themselves. And one of the biggest tools you can give someone is empowerment. So I created a program called Empowering Little Learners, where you go into primary schools. I do a lot of work with secondary schools, 15, 16-year-olds who they've got a lot of energy, but they don't really know where to go with it. And I figured, right, if I can get in there early and go to 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds before they get to 15, 16, they're probably more likely to have that empowerment within them. I also found it helped a lot with bullying as well, because a lot of people will bully because they lost themselves. They're trying to get that power from someone else by maybe knocking them down so they feel more powerful. So I thought if I could empower these people from an early age, they wouldn't feel that they need to knock other people down. They're trying to lift each other up. So that so the Empowering Little Learners is something I've done for a while now, and it just made sense to call the school Empower Martial Arts.
Yeah, they actually, talking of the bullying aspect, I don't know if you've seen the Netflix program Cobra Kai.
I have, yes, I got told by many people I needed to watch it, so yes, I did watch it.
You do need to watch it. They cover the empowering side of things and the bullying aspect of it as well. So it's definitely, I'll definitely recommend watching it. That just came to mind just when you said that. So you spoke a lot about empowering, but is there, like, what do you think is, do you think it's important to stay physically healthy to keep the mind healthy then, if you're combining the two, the coaching with the coaching physically element?
Absolutely, yeah. There are many reasons. The simplest reason is, the way I like to think of it is, all your muscles and joints, they're like best friends. And if best friends don't learn to communicate with each other, they drift apart. And your brain has tentacles that run from it called your nervous system, which connect to all your muscles and joints and tell them what to do. And if you don't use those muscles and joints the way that they like to be used together, the signals go back to the brain. And just like if you don't see your friend for a long time, you lose touch with it, and it makes you sad. So the same principle is that if your muscles aren't communicating with each other, they're sending sad signals back to the brain. And then what the biggest thing is, we lose body confidence. And I'm not talking about body confidence like you look in the mirror and you like what you see. I'm talking about body confidence. You're confident with what your body can do. So you trust your body. And when you build that body confidence, you're not worried about whether you can do a certain action. You just naturally do it. So you've got less restrictions. So the way I like to think of it is the nervous system runs on like a current, like electricity. And you've got AC current, which is alternating current, and direct current, which is DC. The AC current basically means the brain is sending signals to the muscles. The muscles are going, I don't really know what to do, how to communicate with each other. So they send signals back saying we don't know what to do. And that creates lack of confidence or self-doubt. When you've got direct current, the brain sees something like a ball's being thrown at it. Rather than covering, it just catches because it trusts the body and it's just going there. There's no self-doubt. And lack of mobility and stability in the body can create a lot of self-doubt. So, and then that self-doubt manifests itself in psychological issues,
perhaps into anxiety and things like that.
100%. Yeah, the fear of there's not many things that create more anxiety than not trusting yourself.
Yeah. How do you think getting involved in things like martial arts helps with anxiety then? Is it because of how, like you just suggested, the brain and the body work together and send signals to our body, or are there other benefits?
Yeah, there are other benefits, because I think a lot of people do martial arts generally that because that's the self-defense side of things, to feel more, again going back to that confidence, to feel more confident that if I was in a situation where my safety was compromised by someone else, I would be able to make the right decision. And it's not always about the right decision as in I know the right lock or the right defense. It's the right decision to stay cool and calm under pressure, which is that composure, which again will lead to confidence. So training that week in, week out, you're more likely to react in a more positive way, because nervous people make mistakes and generally create dangerous situations a lot worse. So you've got that side of it. We've also got the strength they do, but communicate with other people as well, because you're forced. I've done a lot of work with people in team sports, and what you find is the team sports is that they don't actually do much teamwork training because they're already working together as a team, so it's just a given. Whereas in martial arts, it's an individual sport really. You do it by you're looking after yourself against someone else, but we do a lot of teamwork drills, because if you don't trust your teammates, you can't spar with them, you can't do it. So do a lot of teamwork drills. So you're forced to communicate with other people, which creates that high level of communication, your interpersonal skills and your intrapersonal skills, which again builds that confidence. And it also, I think it distracts people from their worries and woes when you're training like that. I have people come in and they've had a bad day, and I'll do it myself. And within minutes, you forgot about your problems. You've exhausted that situation, and now you're able to tackle it a little bit better after. So I do feel there's many levels to it.
So for some people, they'd have been in lockdown and they might have seen their mental health decline, or they might have suddenly realised they now suffer from anxiety. The thought of joining a group such as yourself might be a really, really big thing for them to do. What do you think might be able to prepare them in preparing for coming out of lockdown or joining a fitness group to be able to help with their confidence and self-esteem? Is there any sort of top tips you could give them for preparing for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. We always used to say the hardest part of the lesson was stepping onto the tarmac being the car park before you walk in. Now people aren't stepping onto the tarmacs because they're staying in their homes. The home is where you're supposed to relax. You know, people are using their homes as their offices, they're using their homes as their gyms, and it's meant to be a place where you relax. So trying to step into that environment, but the bonus is you are in a place where you should feel comfortable. If you're at home, hopefully you feel comfortable in that environment, or at least more comfortable than you would if you stepped into a building you've never seen before. So you've got that on your side to start with. The second thing is maybe try and connect with them one-to-one. So what I do before I take someone on, I'll do a one-to-one session with them to try and build their confidence up. Or there's many on YouTube. I've done them myself. I've got my YouTube channel where people can have a go at some exercise programs, and then maybe just go through some range of motions to start trusting that range of motion. They're not going to feel silly. I think the biggest thing is that people don't want to feel silly. They don't want to be embarrassed. So if I try something I can't do it, it's gonna make me feel silly. So what most people do is it's easy to avoid. So if I don't try something, then I can't mess up. So it's safer. And I do find that a lot of teenagers do go through this. It's safer not to try, because then I don't fail. If I try, I might fail. So having the courage, remember, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's having the strength to do it, even though you do. But maybe little steps. It's massive action, but little steps. Try some little movements. Maybe do a one-to-one with someone that you trust, or you hear good coaches around. Do a one-to-one, and then build up that way.
Yeah, and I think is what I found from coaching is that the motivation to achieve something or to want to achieve that specific goal needs to be more than the anxiety or the low self-confidence. It has to be more, because otherwise you're not getting the balance right.
Motivation is a big one, because with motivation, you'll have that spark. And a lot of people so how many people want a Ferrari, but they're just not willing to do what it takes to get a Ferrari?
Or do they want a Ferrari that much then?
Yeah, so you don't want it enough. So you don't want enough. So their motivation to want it isn't enough, but it might be because their fear is greater. It might be that it's not that they don't want it enough. It's just this one is so great. So we've got to focus on what is it we're most afraid of, and then break it down that way. But you're right, motivation is only a spark. Momentum is what gets it going, which is why I like to think of, if someone comes to me and says, I want to be a black belt, I don't get them gloves on and start sparring with them and say, well, this is what it takes to be a black belt. I build up momentum. We get there gradually, because momentum is far more powerful than motivation. Motivation is a spark. It's exciting. You might see someone, and it works, definitely works. You might be inspired by something you've seen and go, right, you've watched Cobra Kai, and you go, right, just what? I'm going to start moving. But going from zero to hero, there's a massive gap in between. It's just too big a jump. If I want to get to the top of the stairs, I don't jump to the top of the stairs. I take it one step at a time, and I'm more likely to get there. So it's finding those little steps, splitting up into little goals. First step, right, I've just got to get on the tarmac, as we say, and then building gradually, which is why in martial arts we have belt systems. We go white belt and we build it gradually into higher belts, and it just builds. The first 6 months I train people, they're just learning how to move. I'm learning about them as well.
Do you lose some people in that first 6 months because they think, this is too many steps for me to be able to achieve what it is I want to achieve? Do you potentially lose a few people in that process?
In the martial arts world, or in the fitness world in general, you're likely to lose over 50% of people who join. In fact, if you've still got 50% of people who train with you after 6 months, you've done really well. In my history of my training, our retention rate or our quit rate is below 2%. So that means people who join, and that's not just white belt level, that's ever. And most of the people who leave because they've moved house, because they've gone to university, which is a success story for me.
Yeah,
or they've built a family, so they can't commit, or they can't train because they're pregnant. So it's very, very rare I lose people. And I know the reason why we don't lose people is because we begin our coaching from the beginning. We don't expect them to black belt start. We actually start doing coaching training with them. So what you've got a room full of people learning how to be coaches for other people. But really what they're doing is they're learning that coaching for themselves. We create like a program where when you get the higher level of beginners, so it's still a beginner program, when new people come in, they've done 4 months of training. They understand what it feels like. So they then become coaches rather than just inspirators where they go, oh, they're really good. They look amazing, but I can't be like them. We got that. That's why we call it empower. So it's constantly empowering through. So that's why people don't leave us.
Yeah, and also, so I was speaking to you earlier about how I don't find exercising very exciting or very fun. In fact, I put it off. What sort of tips do you think you could give to those people who know that exercise is good for them? I know I feel better after exercise, but feeling like I need to get up and actually do it can be draining in itself. And actually finding it fun doing it, I just don't find it fun. What can people do to find that excitement?
Well, this is called like yo-yo training. So we try something big. We do it for, like you said, the greater being. Being where the doctor might have told you you've got to get healthy, or you go out to play with the kids and you can't keep up with them, or you've got a summer holiday coming up, and then you get the result or halfway and you go, you know what, it's just not worth it. Because generally, if you're only doing it for the result, it won't be worth it. And then you'll drop off again. And then suddenly it'll come back and you've got that motivation because it gets bad. And so the number one thing is no passion, no point. If you're not going to enjoy it, you're not going to sustain it. So you've got to find something you're passionate about. And that's just trial and error. Like I didn't know what my favorite pizza was until I tried lots of different pizzas. So it's just experimenting with things. It's also going a bit easy on yourself and not expecting yourself to be an expert at it straight away. When I learned the piano, I don't expect myself to be on a stage one day. I don't do it to be on a stage. I do it because it's just mindfulness for me, and I enjoy. I hate listening to myself, but I enjoy the playing of it. So I'm not actually trying to achieve great goals. The second thing is having a team behind you. You've got to have a team behind you. So even if you've got all the passion in the world, if you haven't got a good team behind you, good support mechanism, then you're probably not going to hold yourself accountable enough, or you haven't got that person there to pick you up when you need to, or just intelligent guidance, which we all need. So that leads on to having a strategy. You've got to have a strategy. You go, right, how am I going to achieve the goal I'm going to do? How I'm going to, if I'm going to take part in an event or a martial arts school, I'm going to do my research and having a strategy and then breaking it up into little bits. So before you know it, you don't even realize what you're doing. I've got a program called Simply Fit, which is, I did it mainly because a lot of parents would watch my training for my kickboxing program and say, I'd do it, but I'm not interested in the combat side or the technical side. I just want the fitness side of it, because we used to break it into 3 sections: technical, sparring, which is combat, and then the fitness. And they said, I'm just interested in the fitness. So we created a program called Simply Fit. So a lot of parents tried training with me, but the majority of them said, I don't run, by the way. At the time, I was in a massive studio. I mean, it was 18 meters long. So I got them running and they were like, we don't run. And the amount of people I hear that say don't run, no, you do run. You just don't allow yourself to because you're afraid to go.
I don't want to.
No, a lot of people don't run. But I'll tell you what, those people now, we're 7 years in and they love running. They don't go for a run with their friends so much on the park to get fit, but they love the moving, the running side of it. The reason why people don't jump is because they don't know how to fall, or should I say they don't know how to land because they're scared of falling. So if they run, they feel like they're going to feel silly. What if they trip over? What if they get out of breath? And if you're out of breath and you're not used to being out of breath, it's scary. You know, you assign it with, this is dangerous. I'm out of breath. I can't breathe. I'm scared. And as you start to build your confidence up, you go, actually, when I'm out of breath, it's actually okay. I can gain it back. My cardiovascular, a lot of the anxiety comes from the fact you can't breathe, your chest gets tight. But it's just little steps. I don't get someone and say, right, you don't like running, we're going to go and run a marathon. I say, right, we're going to go for a little walk, and then we build it up gradually. It's just little steps, massive action, but little steps.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned that dealing with the fear, or it's almost like you said, having a plan in place to be able to cope with that fear. Because for some of the young people we work with on Ontrack, sometimes it's a long-term illness or something that they could be living with for a few years. So actually that anxiety or whatever barrier it is they're facing might not go away. But some of the work we do with those young people is to try and figure out what it is they can do to make them feel confident in dealing with that barrier when it happens. For instance, anxiety, panic attacks, those kinds of things. The more they happen, the more you can put a plan in place. The more you can put a plan in place, the more you feel confident. And I think that's just what you just said, isn't it? Something similar to that.
Even more so is that where, like, a lot of people believe they can just get rid of it, and you're not going to get rid of it. It comes back in cycles. We are good days, bad days. In fact, if you see someone who's on a high all the time, that's not normal. People's like, this is normal, and learning how to, you say, manage it, cope with it, live with it. There's something Tony Robbins says, and he says, this is anger and this is you, and if you fight against it, you'll be fighting forever. What you do is you learn to dance with it, and you do the same with anxiety. You go, right, I understand that I have this. I know what creates my anxiety because I've experimented. And when you experiment, you become more experienced. And when you have more experience, it leads to wisdom. It doesn't lead to, I don't ever get anxious again. It means I'm wise to what creates an anxiety and how I cope with it or how I deal with it, and then how I move on from it. But there's nothing more motivating than personal progression. So when you see how well you've done, like if you're afraid of something, we all get this. I mean, I'm scared of like roller coaster rides. When I was younger, I used to do it not because I get the thrill from it, but because I just wouldn't let it beat me. And when you get off, I wasn't jumping around because I was excited. I was jumping around because I felt so proud of myself. It's like, whoa, I got the adrenaline rush. That I felt that fear, but I did it anyway. We all feel that thing where we get that adrenaline. And if we don't, experiment with these areas, they're going to manifest themselves in other ways, which eventually will lead to more anxiety. And if you don't exercise, the energy built up in you will lead to whenever you manifest in anger or fear, or some people will cry or comfort eat. If you don't learn to use it, it'll come out in other areas that maybe we don't really want it to, or that just aren't acceptable to us. So you're not going to get rid of it, but we can learn to control it, like aggression. I'm a very aggressive person, which is why martial arts suits me, but I learned to control that aggression, and no one would think that I was a hot, nasty, aggressive person. But when I train, it's out. Then I don't end up having road rage because someone's cut me up. I've already experienced it.
Yeah, some good points there, Alex. And I think a lot of what you're saying is relevant to many of the young people that we're working with across Norfolk. So just one last question. So you obviously watch a lot of coaching videos and look up to some perhaps inspirational people. Other than yourself, who would you say inspires young people? Who would you recommend these young people look towards for some advice or for some ongoing coaching?
Yeah, well, so Instagram's a big thing at the moment. There's a guy called Gary V. He swears a lot, so I apologize straight up. He swears a lot, but he's more on the business side of things, but he's inspirational side. His energy is incredible. He's like, just get on and do it. There's a guy called Tony Robbins, also some people call him Anthony Robbins, who is he's on the energy side of it, about unleashing the power within you, which is an incredible thing to do. And Elliot, the biggest inspiration for me was a guy called Elliot Hulse, but his recent stuff, he's gone a little bit strange in the recent years. Not strange, in my opinion, he's gone a bit off track for what's right for me. I think he's great. His earlier stuff, Elliot Hulse on YouTube's earlier stuff, we're going back probably 5-10 years. He is for young, especially young men. There's a book called King Worry Magician Lover, which is an incredible book, and it's all about this transition into manhood, and it's not just on a masculine form, it's on a feminine form as well. Which we don't really have anymore. You're just expected to be an adult straight away, but very much treated like a child, and that's a big worry for a lot of people. So having that inspiration is big, but having people in your own life, if you can find someone personal to you can open up to, is good. Like you've got yourself, Jay, that people obviously can turn to. I think having a real life person you can speak to is good too. But yeah, there's some really positive stuff out there. But there are also, I will say, there's some really worrying motivation stuff where he goes, come on, you can just do it, you can do it, which is quite forceful and makes us all feel like we're inadequate if we're not going. And when people standing next to Fry, we go back to that, and they're going, well, you should be doing this, and if you're not doing this, you're obviously inadequate, and that knocks a lot of people down. It worries me. There's a lot of people trying to be motivational speakers or trying to motivate people with forceful motivation, putting their wants on the people.
And you have to be realistic sometimes as well, don't you?
Realistic, so, you're going to find what you value. Like there's Instagram people, and Instagram's being slated for this at the moment. There's a lot of fitness models, and they're becoming coaches. They're not coaches. They've never trained someone in their life. They just look brilliant. They're those people that they're just incredible shape, and then they're trying to give people advice, and they've never worked with someone one-to-one. They've never done group activity, so they don't really understand how people react, and they're saying, well, you should want to look like me. And it's quite easy to, and it's well, what if you don't? What if you don't want to look like that? You just want to feel healthy. Like the people I train Super Fit, we don't trying to get people to be thin. I want to express people's movement patterns and then just enjoy the motion. And you should, hopefully, you choose for yourself what you should want, not by someone else.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking to us, Alex. We do appreciate it. You are actually based in Stourbridge, so it's a long way away from Norfolk. But can our participants access like your Facebook and your Instagram for more information or for videos, live videos, and some sort of inspirational messages?
100%. So on Facebook, I'm just under Alex Reason. On Instagram, it's Coach Reason, and Facebook and Instagram page is Empower Martial Arts.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, thanks ever so much, Alex. Take care.
No problem. You too. Thank you very much. Really enjoyed it, Jade. Have a great day.
Okay, now I'm going to try and stop recording. I don't know how to.
You're fine. Press
it always happens to me. Okay.